some of the political crises in our midst, but who know that we cannot solve the problems of this world without taking an integrative approach. So much that needs to be addressed in order for us to move forward as a nation at this time are the internal issues as well as external. As Martin Luther King said, we need a qualitative change in our souls as well as a quantitative shift in our circumstances. So there will be people talking about internal issues, spiritual issues, even religious issues. What does Buddhism have to say? What does Christianity have to say? What does Judaism have to say? What does Islam have to say? What is the transformational perspective? What are the kinds of issues we need to deal with within ourselves, our own disengagement, our own rage, our own upset, or whatever? And then we will be talking more on the second day about the actual political issues, whether it has to do with race or it has to do with getting money out of politics, issues of voter suppression, hate crimes, the environment. But we're not going to go into those political issues, even though we're going to have great speakers and great stuff going on around them. We're not going to go there until we have reached into that deeper, more intimate, more authentic place within ourselves. Because everything we do is infused with the consciousness with which we do it. So unless we address the internal issues, then we go into the external issues with the upset, with the rage, with the disengagement, and all the clutter which actually led to a lot of these problems to begin with. I hope that you will look at sistergiant.com. Very shortly, I'll start announcing the speakers. We have many who are already confirmed, but because it is right after the inauguration, etc., because so many people are really dealing with stuff in their schedules right now, some of the people who have said, I really want to do this, but I got to check and make sure I can do this schedule-wise. That's why some of those names I really want to be up there, so I've waited. But keep in touch. Go to sistergiant.com, go to Sister Giant on Facebook, go to Sister Giant on Twitter, etc., and you'll be seeing all these announcements made. I hope that you will deeply consider this. I think that too many times those of us in the transformational community have kind of sat out some of the deeper social, political, economic issues, and to that extent we have withheld our gifts. Because if you have a clue as to what changes one life, you're the one who has a clue as to what would change the world. All that a society is a collection of individuals. So if you have some of the keys and you understand how people have to change on the inside in order to change on the outside, you shouldn't be on the periphery. Like you're not part of that, because that element is what's been missing. I meet so many people in the transformational community who've never even been to Washington, and I hope you will take this opportunity. So whether you feel moved to be there live or whether you feel moved to be there on live stream, I hope that you will really consider whether this is something that you feel part of, because I think that we can make a great contribution to some deep changes in our country, and if not now, when? If not who? If not us, who? And if you don't see that this is a critical moment, I don't know. All right. We have January 1st coming about. There's really nothing in A Course in Miracles that says that you would start the Course in Miracles on January 1st. But just in case, if you're someone who says this is when you'd like to do it, please remember that you can get the 365 days of the lessons from the Course in Miracles into your inbox every day, read by yours truly. See if that works for you, if that's something you want to respond to. Marianne.com. We celebrate, of course, something wonderful that happened in Standing Rock this week. And yes, isn't it wonderful? And I really want to acknowledge all of those of you here who brought blankets and tents and all of that equipment that we did send, and we're told that they were very, very much appreciated. To those of you in Los Angeles, I will be back in LA at the Saban Theater on Monday, December 19th at 7:30, so please check that out. All of you, if you're not on my mailing list, I hope that you will sign up, and I think that's kind of all I have in terms of announcements. Now let's talk about anything you want to talk about. Let's do this first. Why don't we stay, for those of you specifically who have relationship questions that you want to ask based on tonight's lecture, let's do that first. Does anybody have anything, because we're already in that conversation? Okay, going in the back there. Yes, sir. How's it coming?
So, thank you for tonight. My question is, I get that when you're in a relationship and you feel triggered, it's a divine assignment, so that makes sense. But in the moment, sometimes when I'm triggered, I feel angry. So obviously I'm not in my Christ self, it's all mad, and I'm not at peace. and I say stop. It's like my boundary. But how do you get in your right mind and have the boundary and not be the doormat, but also be in your right mind? Also, additionally, how can the other person not feel attacked when you, even if you're in your right mind, go like, stop doing that, Marianne, you're being annoying.
I've heard it a few times. Okay, so this is the deal. You know, we talk about how you do physical exercise so you can move. You do spiritual exercise so that you can remain still. That is why you meditate. That is why you pray, so that you can stay in your stillness, which is your quote-unquote non-reactive place. Now, in an intimate relationship, because it's intimate, because that person knows how to sort of get you in your gut, if ever there is a situation where you want to practice the art of stillness, it's there. Intimate relationship is a high assignment. And sometimes, you know, look how the ego operates. Everything's so good, I don't need to meditate. Right? Everything's going so well, I don't really need to pray or meditate. But remember, the ego mind is always on its, will do everything that it can. So intimate relationship is a very intense learning assignment. So that stuff will always be going on. Now remember what I said before about how honesty without compassion is brutality, when I was talking about the issue of formality, the issue of kindness. Also, I think that Pat Allen, the psychologist in Los Angeles, is absolutely correct that men are actually more sensitive than women. Women, we think that men are more tough because they're rough with their bodies, but we are more rough with our words. And a man experiences our tough words the way we experience their rough or tough physicality. Does that make sense? So just like guys will kind of like rough each other up, and it's just kind of like, hey, it's no big deal. It's kind of like this thing they do. Whereas us, we go, oh my goodness, you touched me, right? Whereas with men, it's different. You and I might bitch at each other and go blah, 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 and then say, okay, you want to go shopping now? Whereas with a man, I go, you want to go shopping? How can you say we're going to shop after that conversation we had last night? You're like, what? That we were just talking, right? Right? So this goes back to what I was saying about formality. Be very, very careful. Be very, very careful what you say. And intimacy can make us relax too much. I think, this goes back to what I was talking about, the over-casualization. And we lose the mystery of love when you do that as well. This goes back into what I was saying before. We squeeze it all into sex and we just want it to happen there. It has to be something we cultivate all day. It's like, when do you release a man? Every morning. When are you kind and fantastic? All day, to the best of your ability. And we have so over-casualized. I remember a lot of things with my parents, things of my mother's behavior that I laughed at for decades, and then look back on and realize how good she was and how she kept such a guy, right? Because she was never overly casual with her dress, with her home, even with her behavior. And I noticed when my father called my mother sweetheart. I never heard him call her Sophie Ann, except when she hit a point. It's so interesting because he would just call her sweetheart, sweetheart. But if my mother was about to cross some boundary, you know how you knew? Sophie Ann. And she knew. And I saw her. She was careful as well. And these are some of the ways in which we are we just let it rip in ways that later the person remembers. And what I was saying before about if you have meditated that day, if I have meditated in the morning, I have a different, whether it's the lessons of the Course in Miracles or transcendental meditation, whatever your serious meditation practice is, you have a different nervous system throughout the day. I'm not saying that you'll be an enlightened master and you won't make any mistakes, but the chances of you radically falling off the cliff are greatly diminished. What does it mean to fall off the cliff? To say something that like, that's it. He's out of here. Or that's it. She's not going to forget that you said that. And this is exactly what I mean. The ego mind will do everything possible if you are not in control of your house. And what does it mean to be in control of your house? That means really the master of your own mind. Because so much subconscious childhood stuff is brought up by intimate love that if you are not placing it in God's hands in a sacred container, then your reactivity and the other person's reactivity, it's all over the place. And that's what we do in our world. We're not careful. Does that make sense? And also, look at your career. It doesn't just happen. You have to tend it. And you have to show up every day. Look at your car. More people in our society today, there are people who spend more time and effort taking care of their car than taking care of their love and taking care of their relationship. In work, in your career, if you have a serious career, you can't just do whatever you want, whenever you want it, and say whatever you want, whenever you want it. That's just not how to be, that's not a serious player. And that's not a serious player at love either. Does that make sense? And we don't take our loves seriously, except in the sense of what we want it to give to us. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question, sir?
Yep. I feel a little ashamed.
Pardon?
I feel like I have some work to do.
Yeah, we all have work to do. And also, not only do we all have work to do, but it is work, it's like physical exercise. You never get to stop doing the work, and it must be tended to every day. You might have a Bentley, you might have a Rolls Royce, but you're going to have to put gas in the car. And by the way, yes, absolutely, a Rolls Royce or a Bentley is going to take more maintenance effort than a Honda is. Well, same with a relationship. The fact that the relationship is high maintenance, it's a Bentley. It's a Rolls, right? So the fact that a relationship, this is not necessarily something bad, that you are called to something. Does that make sense? Okay, who's next? Yes, this lady right here.
Thank you. This pertains to two things. One would start probably with the phrase irreconcilable differences. And something that you said then in the sermon, which really made me curious about how the Course would address. You said, there'll be a moment when you sit in the oneness of God in which it doesn't mean you're going to stay.
Which means what, ma'am?
It doesn't mean you're going to stay.
That's right. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to stay.
You're going to go. So the question that's raised for me was, how interesting then. It hadn't crossed my mind to go. It crossed my mind that at this peak of agony, it's a good time to dive deep into this now and move beyond if we can. I bet we can. And my partner said, now, I don't think so. I think I'm feeling pretty calm and I'm done. And so irreconcilable difference suddenly became a phrase of tremendous import to me, because I think we both felt like we were pretty clear with God right about then, So I wonder what your thoughts are.
Your feeling was that now that we had been through this, we can really do it. His feeling, now that we've been through this, we're leaving. Once you reach a certain age, no matter what the drama, you've played every part. Do you know what I mean? So I think everybody in this room understands what you were saying, because sometimes we do feel like, well, now that we know all this, now we could really do it. But that's if you have this construct. So it all has to do with the mental construct, because the truth of the matter is, whether you are to stay or to go, getting to that moment is what's imperative. And to some people, that would be the sign, now we could probably do it. To another person, not. And the thing is, you can't make another person's choice for them. Now, if you are both prayerful and you are asking that God's will be done, there's a chance. The Course in Miracles says that it doesn't use this expression, but it presents a construct of a win-win universe. If it's right for one, it's right for the other. Now, the Course in Miracles does say that people are brought together for as long a period of time as physical proximity serves the maximal soul growth opportunity. The Course in Miracles says relationships are never over. So when you felt like we could really do it now, and your partner felt like, no, I'm calm, but I want out now, the Course in Miracles says the relationship was not over at that point. The relationship changed form. So the universe is, because relationships are of the mind, so the universe is intentional. The self-actualization of all people is the goal of the universe. So the same lessons will be learned. Both of you are going to take up where you left off, one way or the other. there are in God actually no irreconcilable differences. But even then, I mean, that's kind of a legal term. It's used with divorces and stuff. But you want to get to the point of complete forgiveness, whether the issue is to go or to stay, because that's the only way to be able to go forward free to love again. Does that make sense?
Wonderful sense, thanks.
Anybody else? Who's next? Yes, ma'am.
I have been beginning the course, and I need to. Hi. Oh my God, I came into that without the speaker. You're really your work tonight was transformational, and thinking about forgiveness has been the perfect topic for me because I'm going through a very hard time with something just happened 2 months ago about someone who lied to me and came back into my life and told me he met someone else after he got divorced when we were together. And I've been battling how to forgive someone who I loved and trusted, and I don't know who they are. And I loved what you said about how that you're triggered from your childhood, and then that makes you realize how vulnerable you are. And I lost my center and didn't handle it the way I would have liked to have handled it. So I'm following the course on that.
Okay, so
round.
I'm a little, you lost me a little bit. This person lied to you?
This person I broke up under certain conditions, and now he has moved on and met someone else and didn't come back to me and tell me as he had promised to do.
Okay, hold on. You were with him. He moved on. You broke up. He met someone else. And then what?
He had promised that he would come and tell me if his life changed.
Oh.
And he didn't.
But you had already broken up, I thought.
Yes. But I'm devastated because I didn't get over him.
Because you're not.
I did not get over him.
You would not get over him, and he's moved on.
That's right.
You realize how common this is?
Very.
Yeah.
Except that it was 4 years and I should have been over it. I was over it till I found out something that I didn't know. My dad died and I had a reversal, so.
So you were with this man for how long?
On and off for about, well, I knew him for 10 years. We're together for 6.
Okay, you're together for 6 years, and now it's 4 years on.
Later, right?
And you feel that you have not completely moved on.
Unfortunately.
Okay. So do you feel that you have forgiven him completely?
Not yet.
Okay, and what is obstructing your capacity to forgive him completely?
Jealousy and anger, and more sort of like I wasn't given a chance, that kind of thing.
Jealousy and anger and what?
That I felt I was not given the chance to have a proper relationship with him.
Okay, so your job, despite the pain,
Well, there's a lot of that.
may he be blessed, may he be happy, may he be loved.
I'm working on that.
Make it, no, you're not working on it,
I got to do it.
but you will work on it now that I said it,
Yeah.
hopefully. May he be blessed, may he be happy, may he be loved. Because what you really want is for him to be happy with me.
Obviously. I just saw him last night. It didn't go well.
That's not God love.
No, it's not.
If I really love you, and I'm not saying it's easy. I think in my book Illuminata, there's the prayer for the heartbroken, something like
Which
that.
book
Maybe,
is this?
Caitlin, would you please get Illuminata? I think there's the prayer for the heartbroken, something like that. So basically what you're saying, and this is exactly what the Course is saying, you're thinking this person, and I'm not saying this glibly like it's easy,
Oh, no, I really
okay? But look at what's happening here. What I'm really saying is I want this person to be happy with me, which is not saying I just want this person to be happy. It's not saying I just want this person to be on the path that would make them happy and blessed, and if she can bring him more happiness than I can, may he be with her. But that's what that's why you got to put your mind. It's just like picking up weights, right? Because you got to counter gravity. But you see the gap between your thinking. Do you see the prayer for the heartbroken?
Oh, wow. Okay. How this book?
A prayer for a broken relationship, obsession and addiction and love.
Perfect.
It's all here. I think prayer for a broken
photocopy
relationship. Hold on. See, I did all this research for you.
Thank you. Obviously.
Well, this is
Many
one,
of
but
them.
I thought, hold on.
Oh, thank you. I want to look at your book now.
Okay, hold on. You want to read this out loud?
Sure. If I have my glasses
Okay, read it so everybody can understand.
on. Where am I reading
it.
it?
Own your words.
Dear God.
I'm sorry, hold on just a moment. Dear God, in releasing this man. It's a man, I assume?
Yes.
Okay, it's New York, who knows?
Present
Okay, okay. Dear God,
Dear God, I'm releasing this man. oh my gosh, I surely feel as though my heart is crushed. I feel as though a limb is gone, a piece of myself now ripped away. I pray, dear God, for the power to love him so totally that I shall not be in pain. For my love, I know I shall set him free. Let me not be tempted to try and constrict him, either in my actions or in my thoughts. May he flee free. Ooh. May I appreciate the rightness of his need.
No, keep going.
Oh,
keep
okay. I
going.
thought you were
I'm
taking
just trying to
a
help you.
need to travel. May I keep my faith in the wisdom of things. May I learn to respect his choices to go where he needs to go. If he finds another love, may that love flourish for your sake. For truly the ark of love is blessing on all of us wherever he goes, dear Lord. Please go with him. May he be blessed in all doings, all his doings. Please protect him, bring him joy. May he always be happy. May he always be loved. May he find his way. Amen. That is some difficult prayer. It's a good one.
Dear God, in releasing this man, I surely feel as though my heart is crushed. I feel as though a limb is gone, a piece of myself now ripped away. I pray, dear God, for the power to love him so totally that I shall not be in pain. For my love, I know, shall set me free. Let me not be tempted to try to constrict him, either in my actions or in my thoughts. May he fly free. May I appreciate the rightness of his need to travel. May I keep my faith in the wisdom of all things. May I learn to respect his choices to go where he needs to go. If he finds another love, may that love flourish for your sake. For truly the ark of love is a blessing on us all. Wherever he goes, dear God, please go with him. May he be blessed in all his doings. Please protect him, bring him joy. May he always be happy. May he always be loved. May he find his way. Amen. And the Course in Miracles, so look at how this works. And this is why the Course in Miracles says prayer is the medium of miracles, because the miracle is the shift in your own perception. So the ego says, he hurt me. So the ego says, I am in pain because of what that person isn't giving me. But really you're in pain because of what you're not giving them. Right? That's why the Course says only what you are not giving can be lacking in any situation. You have your hook in him, and to the extent that which you have your hook in him, the hook's in you. Take your hook out of him. May he be blessed. May he be happy. May he be loved. And I'll tell you something else, guys. If you have a hard time doing that at the end of the relationship, you probably weren't so good at it while you were in it. Does that make sense? You got a problem in love? Oh yeah, there are prayers in this book for pretty much all of it. Okay? All right, that's what that is. So ma'am, does that make sense to you? May he be blessed. May he make that almost your mantra. May he be blessed. May he be happy. May he be loved. May he be blessed. May he be happy. May he be loved. May he be blessed. May he be happy. May he be loved. Everybody that you think of, you are, as you think of other people, so shall it be for you. Okay? All right, who's next? Yes, sir.
Hey, Marianne.
Thanks, honey.
I've heard you speak in LA a couple of times, and you always look really beautiful.
Thank
But
you.
today, you look amazing. Yes.
Thank you. First of all, I want to accept the compliment on behalf of all women, and I want every man in the room to hear me when I say this on behalf of all women. We love it when a man says that. Thank you.
So I remember going to Sister Giant a couple of years ago.
Cool. It's for men too. It's not just for women.
And I talked to you about, I wasn't sure if I was going to stay in this country, become a citizen, or go back.
Okay.
And I remember you said, well, I hope that you stay. And I got my citizenship this year. So, yeah. And I voted for the first time. So, yeah. It's been really great. And the one thing, you know, I've always loved your politics and spirituality mixed together. And when I went there, the one thing I thought, like, well, how could I be more active? And you said that start in your own community. And so that's what I did in West Hollywood. I would go to lectures, and I wouldn't know how to like get involved in everything. And it has led me to the UN. So thank you for that. It's changed my life in a big way. And I've been going to missions. Like we met with the Danish mission, the Icelandic mission, the South African mission, talking about the independent expert on sexual orientation and gender identity, which came up to the General Assembly, and the third committee voted on keeping it, and it's come up again, so we're going and talking to the missions to sort of stay vigilant. And my boyfriend and I are going to Southeast Asia to do volunteer work with the LGBT community with everything that I'm learning this week with the UN. And that's all because of you.
Oh, thank you.
So, yeah.
That was so beautiful. Thank you, thank you. What country did you come from?
Originally Kuwait.
Kuwait,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
And just from you saying, follow your passion and look for in your community, I didn't ever think that it would go this far. So it's, if I hadn't gone to Sister Giant, I don't think that, I
You
would
have gotten it somewhere else because it was time for you to get that.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
as I leave on this journey with him, I just want to acknowledge what you've meant to me, and I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you. May your travels be safe and blessed. Thank you. So beautiful, huh? So wonderful. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Susan. A friend of mine spoke to me on Sunday and said that she had heard you speaking about the political atmosphere and that you were talking about outrage and the connection of outrage and love. And I would love to hear you say more about that.
Well, one of the things I've said often is that moral outrage is not born of anger. Moral outrage is born of love. And one of the things that has led many in the transformational higher consciousness community to remain disengaged from politics is this kind of faux, artificial idea of what spirituality means. If there are children playing in a street and there is a car coming down the road at 70 miles an hour, of course I'm going to start screaming. Is that because I fear the car, or is it because I love the children? So many people say if it brings up anything that's negative, that you're being negative, you're being a fearmonger. So many people, obviously we're living at a very tumultuous moment in our own politics. And many people voted for President-elect Trump and are happy, and I respect that because this is a democracy. You get to vote for whoever you want to vote for. But many of us are not happy, and we don't have to be. This is not a king, and many of us are deeply concerned. We see behavior that is, in our view, the behavior of a demagogue, deep irresponsibility, far right-wing appointments, which that's just fact, that's not opinion, that part. And that does not mean you're unspiritual. And we want to really think about that in terms of some of the historic moments. If you saw someone in some other country in history when some of the worst things have happened, some of the questions that people have asked in retrospect were, how did they let it get that bad? And I think we're getting some insight. So I think that the idea that many of us are disturbed, and I know I get a lot of this, like on my Facebook page, on social media, where's your spirituality? But as I said, I have no respect for preachers who preached during slavery and didn't call to task slave owners. I have no respect for leaders, including the Pope at the time. During World War II, one of the interesting things is there was a petition to the Pope. The majority of leaders of the Nazi leaders were Roman Catholic. And the Pope was petitioned to declare the killing of a Jew a mortal sin, because that would have really made a difference theoretically to many people who were Catholic. And he refused to do that. I have no respect for that. And I think all of us, I just see it in my own little way with all the, I'll never read your books again, and it hurts me and it causes me, oh my God. But I think all of us are faced at this moment with some real decisions about where we stand. Martin Luther King said, your life begins to end on the day you stop talking about things that matter. And I think one of the things that we're all faced with right now, if you are reading the paper, and I hope you are. The president-elect has attacked the New York Times. I hope your response to that is to get a subscription. But more than that, I think it's a really important, one of the principles of nonviolence is to be educated. And there are good things in there today about all of this stuff. Every page is filled with the stuff that we need, being educated, knowing what these appointments are, who they are, what they represent. And then and that's why Sister Giant, it's not about rage and anger, but it is about just stop right there. An African American, one of the reasons African Americans need to know their history, and one of the reasons Jews need to know their history, any formerly disempowered or disadvantaged or oppressed people, you have to know your history because you have to know the point at which behavior becomes such that you say to whatever prevailing system is perpetrating the injustice, stop right there. Because I know what happened when this happened 100 years ago. I know what happened when this happened. History does repeat itself. Stop right there. And I think at this point, for those of us who believe this, and I respect those of us who do not believe this, but many of us do believe that this is the greatest threat to American democracy that we have ever encountered. And it is not unspiritual of us to say, stop right there. And to ask ourselves what that means. Not that those answers are easy, because there is much to consider right now. We want to be deeply aligned with truth, with understanding what's happening, what are within the system of our democracy, what is true, what is accurate. Nobody has an easy plan forward, but this is a moment, that in the classic stages of grief, the final one is acceptance. This is where we must not be in the classic stages of grief. We must not go into acceptance. I really appreciated Saturday Night Live this week. They made it clear they will not shut up and they will not back down. I loved Alec Baldwin. When the president-elect started putting down SNL, they need to stop, he said, and Alec Baldwin tweeted, we'll stop when you release your tax returns. That is so American. I loved it. Because this man was not elected as our king. And that's really important to remember. And that's free speech. So, and not everybody agrees with what I just said, and that's okay too. We don't all have to agree. That's what freedom is. So I respect that some people totally hate what I just said. That's okay. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to say it so that you'll like me either. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Okay, yes, ma'am. You see why love and sex is such an easier conversation today.
Yeah, I'm going to make it a little lighter.
Pardon?
I'm going to make it a little lighter.
Not that love and sex is lighter, but it's all that. And also, I just want to say one thing about this seriously. And it's a very serious conversation about the love and sex and intimacy. There is an issue here about strengthening the things that remain. I think one of the ways it's like when you're about to take a journey. Do I have everything I need for the trip? Right? And we are going through now a very significant journey in our history. We've got a path ahead. We've got a journey ahead. And we need to be inwardly prepared. And so, it's kind of like sometimes you say in life, I can handle problems in my career as long as my love life is okay, or I can handle problems in my love life as long as my career okay. You have to have some area of life that's working, right? And so this idea of our losing it in every area. So you really want to really deepen. This is the time, it's a good time to not only read the newspaper, it's a good time to read great literature. It's a good time to see deep art, go to art exhibits, inwardly prepare your personhood. And that's what I mean about your love life, really deepen your relationships. We need to really be deep in our personhood and our deep humanity in order for us to be a field that can handle the journey ahead. Does that make sense? Okay, yes, ma'am.
You talk often about Pat Allen, and
I do.
I love her
I do too.
Work. And she talks about having contracts with men for the women. And is that, I don't know, sometimes it feels controlling and manipulative.
Yeah, well, but her thing, sometimes it feels a little gamey, but there's a difference between a game and a dance. So the game you don't want, but there is a minuet. You know, by the way, if you look at a minuet and a waltz, they're actually very sexy. You know, if you actually look at the dynamic of it and you kind of rise yourself above history, because it's courtship and it's part of formality. So what Pat Allen says about, her thing is about the over-casualization of sex, and that there are 3 agreements, right? One is continuity of communication, right? What is it she says? Continuity of communication, commitment, but what is commitment to? Sexual monogamy?
I think she talks about not having sex for a certain period of time.
Yeah, okay, well, whatever her particular issues are, this is what I think we do, whether you buy into the specifics that she talks about or not.
Courtesy.
I've done this, pardon?
Courtesy.
Courtesy.
Yeah.
Well, she's right. We were talking about that tonight. One of the things, and I don't know if men do this, but women do this, and Pat Allen talks about it, and I know I've done this, and I know a lot of women do this. Pat Allen says men are not normally liars. They tell the truth until it is proven to them that it is not safe to do so. And she talks about how often a man told you he wasn't in it for more. He told you, and you either didn't believe him or thought, well, he just hasn't had me yet. He'll change because we are made up so that there is no way we could be in this moment and I'd walk away, so I can't imagine that you would, but he will, or could. And if he didn't tell me he wouldn't, then I have to look back and go, well, he never said that. And you often, you know, I do think you know everything you need to know in the first 15 minutes. And I think a lot of times, I don't know how men work on this, but I know women do this, we edit. We edit. And later we go, well, actually, he did say this, or he didn't say that, or I didn't, where Pat Allen comes in, I was afraid to ask. Because I thought it would take away from the sexiness of the moment. Right? And then later, we blame him when really, you know, millions of years of evolution went into making him someone who would want to spread his seed. Millions of years of evolution made us into someone who would want to nest now. And learning to live consciously is to not live just on the animalistic level, but that takes work. And that's why the whole thing of the over-casualization of sex, you just go immediately into the impulse without the higher consciousness work on that. So it's when some people say it sounds gamey, what they're really saying is it sounds unsexy to have that conversation, because it is unsexy to have that conversation. But it's dangerous to not have it. Does that make sense? And the fact that a certain level of that kind of conversation slows things down is ultimately better. And then if it slows it down and just makes all that stuff go away, that tells you something. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. That lady over there.
Wow. Well, I was born in Germany. I'm German, and when Donald Trump, you know, announced that he wanted to become the president, I just couldn't believe it. And I didn't take it serious, unfortunately. Just couldn't believe that a man who was a joke for me wants to be the president. Now this is a reality. And what Hitler did, and many people fell for it, is telling them, I'm going to make this a great country again. And that's what he based his campaign on. So the irony is, when all this started like getting really serious, that he was seeming to win, I started actually looking for a little bit more spirituality in my life, and I found you. And then I came the first time to a lecture here on an evening where you told the story about your friend who is voting for Trump and what your relationship looks like, how you deal with it. And you ended up saying, we will be okay, no matter who wins. And I said, I loved everything you say tonight, but I didn't like that, because I really think we are in for a ride, a rough ride. And the Course of Miracles, I'm a baby with a Course of Miracles, and I'm really trying hard to not be, critical of it and do my exercises. But very often I feel challenged that you have to accept the outcome because it's a democracy. I have not accepted it yet, and I'm being a rebel right now. I'm passing on the emails. Whenever I get an email to sign the petition, I ask all my friends, even the ones who voted for Trump, please sign this petition. I still have hope, because I want your opinion. Now, actually, somebody who is in this electoral college came out and said, I'm not going to vote for Trump, which is a big win. We are already many people who signed this petition. And there's another thing. I have a lot of hang-ups, but one thing I'm proud of is my intuition. I have this feel this man is going to be impeached. He cannot get away with so much more. He has overstepped the boundaries of what you are allowed to say to become a president. He should have been disqualified the first time he was talking, and that was telling people that Mexicans are rapists and criminals. It was it. That was not presidential material. And he's too busy tweeting. He has to go. Okay. And I think he's going to be impeached. Okay. That I feel. And he's going to be impeached.
I understand. Okay, so let's deconstruct this and talk about this rationally. First of all, what you just said, I will not accept it. And that's what I said 5 minutes ago, that the classic phase of acceptance is where we should not go. So I already said that. I agree with you. Secondly, you said that I said no matter what, we will be okay. Be clear what I meant by that. I didn't say no matter what happens, we will be okay because he'll be okay. That's not what I meant. I meant no matter what happens, we will be okay because we will remain alert and be our best. I have not suggested that we just accept some of the things that we're being asked to accept. The night of the election, I did say, let's see what happens, but we have seen now many things since the night of the election. Now, there is a process here. One has to do with the changing the mind of the electors. But remember, there are, I think, 538 electors. And I think 18 have said that they changed their vote, maybe? And there was that op-ed in the New York Times today, the person who is saying, somebody has her New York Times, somebody was holding, do you have it? Yesterday. It was yesterday's, because it was in the New York Times today. He was talking about the Federalist Papers and the three things, and I can't remember the third one, that would be a reason for an elector to change their vote. That would be demagoguery. Some people feel that there is that. International entanglements. It is extraordinary, some of what's going on. So right now, there are many, on my Facebook page, I have the link to the Roger Wolfson article on Huffington Post, where it's the whole idea of the petitions that you can sign about the Electoral College, etc. We have something like 14 days. It is not reasonable at this moment to assume that they will change their vote, but it might happen. If they do not change their vote, then we're on to the next thing. And like you're saying, ma'am, some people feel impeachment. You know, the 25th Amendment is not only about high crimes and misdemeanors, it is also about the recognition that a person is physically or mentally unfit. Now, I'm not saying what you should think about any of this, how you should feel, or how you should act. But I'm saying this is the conversation in the air. And that's the thing, ma'am, when I said we will be okay. We will be okay because I believe that despite it all, this is a moment of awakening in this country. I haven't seen people so awakened I haven't seen people this awake since the 1960s. And the fact that people don't know what to do doesn't mean we're not awake, because people are just kind of like watching. But this is such a time to read, to understand. And once again, that's part of why Sister Giant, I'm putting Sister Giant together. That's why we're doing it right after the inauguration, February 2nd, 3rd, 4th, to deepen both our understanding and to incubate not only ideas but also actions in these particular areas. So, yes, ma'am, I just think we should remember not everybody agrees with us, And that's cool, you know, this is America, but don't be ashamed of what you do feel. And don't hesitate to act and to stand on what you do feel. The founders did give us a framework, and there is much to be done. So follow your own gut, follow your own educated assumptions, and I will stand by what I said. We will be okay. Okay, one more, and then it's time to go, I guess. Yes, sir.
Hi, I have a question. Earlier in your lecture, you mentioned how certain relationships sort of force us to see the limits to the capacity of our love.
All relationships.
All relationships. So my question is, how do you know when to walk away from a relationship, a friendship, a situation that is no longer serving you versus
staying in
there?
This is the thing. We all wish there was some external guidebook. If they say this, you stay. If they do that, you go. We're taught as Course in Miracles students to follow the direction of an internal teacher. Holy Spirit, internal teacher, Jesus, whatever words you use. The Course in Miracles does say the Holy Spirit speaks to you through your brothers. You go to counseling, you talk to friends, you read books. Certainly we pick up, you know, sometimes something somebody says, that was it. That was the piece. But the bottom line is, what does your own heart tell you? But I will tell you this. The very question whether you stay or go isn't what it appears to be, because where your body goes is ultimately irrelevant. Because if you go, but you're taking the trauma with you, you didn't go even though you went. And you're just going to reenact it at the next place. So the issue is to get to that point. It's like when you were talking about you went through the agony. Whether you stay or go, you've got to go deep into that place. So the issue is to completely forgive this person, to find that point of forgiveness, whether the issue is to stay or to go. Not only that, until I completely forgive you, I can't know whether to stay or go. And if I haven't forgiven you and I go, I'm still carrying it. It might take us months before we talk again, but it's not over. It's still the stuff. And that's why the question that the ego asks is, do I stay or do I go? The question the Spirit asks is, how do I forgive? Now, obviously, that does not apply if there's physical violence or abuse or anything like that, then zero tolerance, no question. But for most of us, we're in a gnarly web that's not about whether we stay or go. Now, sometimes it's easier to forgive if you go, because it's easier to forgive someone when they're not in your face for a while. But ultimately, just know where the body is not the determiner of what's deeply happening. And it's not the determiner of what deeply is going to happen either with this person or with the person behind them. Does that make sense? Okay. Any more questions on that topic before we go? Okay, real quick. Yes, ma'am.
Real quick. I don't have a question, but I just want to say this. I've been following you for a long time, and on my spiritual walk, as far as triggers, one of the things that I've noticed for me is that nobody triggers me. I get triggered by them. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that's been helping me, I have very much noticed this, even with my relationship with this woman, everybody around me, and especially my romantic relationships, is that each man that has been in my life has totally shown me, I've had so many lessons through them. They were all, even the people at work, you know, I'm a flight attendant by trade, and I see people at work and I get triggered. And it's because they, on some level, remind me of something when I was a child, my mother or my father.
That's right.
And this has been my healing. This has been the empowerment. This has been the forgiveness. And it's not about, well, I forgive you because I condone what you're doing. It's about, what is the anger doing to me?
Of course,
what is the script that I'm making for my mom to be a certain way so that I can feel better? How is that affecting me every single day? She doesn't come home with me. These people don't come home with me when I'm angry. I'm home with that.
That's
and
right.
just this week, I had a trigger. It was jealousy. And I sat back and I thought about it. And I realized I didn't want to be happy for this person, but I admit to that. I felt the feeling, and I realized that it's loss. My loss, not his. And on the deeper level, I want love for him. On a deeper level, I want love for my mother. On a deeper level, I want love for my alcoholic, my addict brother. So I'm learning what is it, I'm responsible for what I think, say, and do in my reactions.
Absolutely.
This path is empowering. And I love your open-mindedness. I love what you've been teaching. And it's been helping me to constantly look at my role in every relationship, because it absolutely has nothing to do with anyone else. But what it has to do is with me. You know, how am I feeling, my reaction to this situation? And what I realized within 15 minutes of that jealousy, I realized that I was setting a script. I don't want you to be with that person so that I can feel better.
That's right.
Oh my God.
The Course in Miracles says you bring shadow figures from your past. You're bringing your father here, you're bringing your mother here, and you're not even seeing that person, exactly as you said. So I'm feeling needy because you remind me of my father who wasn't all that interested. You're feeling engulfed because you've been engulfed by your mother. That's why the avoidant meets the addict, blah, 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 yada, 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 yada. But the point is to get to that place of how do you get out of that gnarly web? Like you said, we're bringing the shadow figures from the past. And as the Course in Miracles says, you pay a very high price for not taking 100% responsibility for your experience. That price is that you will not be able to change it. Just exactly what you so eloquently said. If you don't see that this is about me, then even if I go to another person, I'm going to be reenacting this because I'm trying to get some other person to give me what I think Daddy didn't give me, but this is not Daddy standing in front of me. And also what you were saying, as we've been saying tonight, only what you are not given can be lacking in any situation. The only thing I want to add is that what this woman said, because everything you were saying was so great, and when you said it's my jealousy, what do you do from a Course in Miracles perspective when those thoughts of jealousy come up? What do you do when those thoughts of neediness come up? What do you do when those thoughts of anger come up? When this gentleman said, how do you say it to the person? You go to God. By definition, if I'm not in love and peace, I am insane in that moment. Don't take it to the person. Take it first to God. Dear God, I'm clearly insane in this moment because I am not at peace. And I give these thoughts to you. I pray that the Holy Spirit come into my mind and change my thinking. Now, once your thinking is changed, because the Holy Spirit will realign your thinking, that's what a miracle is. It might be that then there's nothing to say to the other person. It has nothing to do with the other person. Or it might be that there is communication to have with the other person, boundaries or whatever, but I will be coming from such a completely different place when I say it, and my very choice of words will be guided from above. Does that make sense? Thank you for saying that. That was very eloquent sharing. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. And you know, ultimately, the issues of love, whether we're talking about love or intimacy or politics or anything else, these are ultimately the same principles. Okay, all right, we're about to say our final prayer. I hope once again all of you will look at sistergiant.com, register if this feels right to you. It is priced in such a way that hopefully we will cover the cost, but obviously if that's a stretch for you, we're asking $150 for live attendance for the 2.5-day conference. It's Thursday night, all day Saturday, until about 5 or 6 on Saturday. I think there's a cheaper price before January 8th. Is that right? Something like that. And same with the live stream, but we have scholarships available as well. So that's never, money is not something that would have to keep anybody from being there or from live stream. Okay? All right, thank you very much. As my mother would say, God willing, we will be here next Tuesday. And so we pray, dear God, as we take this moment to join, we send our love, our peace, our goodwill to each other. We send our love and our peace and our goodwill to all sentient beings, to all the people and the animals of the world. We pray for Charlie, for Nicole, for Matthew, for Garrett, for Brenda and for Jamie, for Brusha, for Allison, for Christopher, and for Uncle John. We pray, dear God, that we be the people that you would have us be, that we might do as you would have us do. And now go forth in confidence and go forth in peace, for there are angels to your left and angels to your right, angels in front of you and angels behind, angels above you and angels below. There is a path of golden light already paved in God's mind. In every moment, open your heart that you might walk along this path. And if in any moment you are confused or fearful and do not know what to think or what to do, reach out your hand as would a little child for the guidance of an elder brother. This is no idle fantasy. He is here. And so it is with a blessing upon all the world, dedicating ourselves that we might be used as vessels through which God might flow in love and forgiveness and compassion and mercy. Together we say, Amen. Everyone, I will be in the back parlor for anybody who wants to have a conversation and wants to know more about Sister Giant. I will be there. Thank you so much. See you next week. Bye. Thank you.